Why, hello, Internet! My name is Prunk, and today we are going to be going over Shadow of Infinity. This set debuted in its showcase back in February of 2006, and the immense power of the Sacred Beast. And by immense power, I mean they just kind of sit in everybody's binder because they had no actual gameplay value. This set was a pretty big dud. Ancient Gears got support, and honestly, the most sought after card in this set was Treeborn Frog as a rare. And that's just so people could play Monarchs more competitively, but we're going to talk about that card later. But this set just overall dud. Which is bad for Yu-Gi-Oh's meta, but great for the Fixing Yugioh channel 16 years later. They really did think about me when they made this set. Just looking at it, I don't even know where to begin. There is no synergy with this set. A lot of cards just need random equip cards to be played on old versions of bad cards to be played already. And what the hell is this artwork for Trial of the Princess? Is that a massive baby with a lollipop? That's a choking hazard. Like, babies can't have lollipops. We could probably fix that with a ritual card later. Spoiler. But let's just break down this set. The Armageddon end of the world cards are actually pretty good. Not meta competitive, but they don't need to be fixed. They are playable, which is all this show is really about. The Sacred Beasts don't really have decks that can really work around them easily, and they just have no real support, which is kind of sad because they did kind of fix this later on, where they came out with raw support and things, but these guys just never really had that engine to get them moving. There's just a lot of bad cards that need equipment to be special summoned, and so those are pretty easy to fix from if you've been watching our channel. And yeah, there's just a lot. So let's start with these Sacred Beasts and make our way from there. So let's start with Hammond, Lord of Striking Thunder. It's basically our raw retrain that we got for this set. And it states, cannot be normal summoned or must be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 face-up continuous spell cards you control to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card destroys an opponent monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. While this card is face up in defense position, monsters your opponent controls cannot target the monster for attacks except this one. So it has built-in protection, but its effects kind of counter each other overall. So I like the fact that it can be special summoned. I like the fact that it only takes 3 continuous spells. That is unique and hasn't really been done at this point yet either. But its built-in protection is not not necessary. Why would you, if you're trying to get it in an attack position to deal damage, awesome. If you're just trying to make this into a butt, then it can't be targeted by monster. Wait, was it? Well, cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. Okay, yeah. So if this one's just in defense, it just sits there as a wall. So it's not even protection for itself; it's protection for your field. But if you already just drop this guy on your field, nobody's going to be summoning a monster to take out your 1800 attacker Kaiko or something. This. So its defense effect just doesn't actually matter and is completely irrelevant. I think while this card is face up on the field, monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters for attacks. Just period, and just end that without the defense position thing is an easy fix we can do. So the card itself, there are some flaws, but it's not horrible. It is a special summon 4K beat stick that only takes 3 continuous spells, and there's plenty of ways to do that with Swords of Revealing Light and things that would be meta relevant. So the specialist summoning condition isn't really that necessary. It's more of just this deck doesn't have a good support engine, and I think that's what we want to fix a little bit more specifically. Now, one other nice thing is you can actually do this with I believe you can do this with equip spells. No, it's face up continuous spell cards. So we need continuous spell cards. So Swords of Revealing Light doesn't even work with this. So while we're going through some fixes on some of these other cards that nobody plays, we will want to think about continuous spell cards. What cards could be used as continuous spells throughout this entire chapter or entire set? So that way we can bring out this guy and have that support for this. But let's move on to the next one. All right, we got Raviel, Lord of Phantasms. Cannot be normal summon a set, special summon from your hand by attributing 3 Fiend-type monsters, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Okay, Fiends are getting some support. That is interesting. We can probably, if we apply some of our fixes that we've done to the Archfiend stuff earlier on, I think that we have a pretty strong Fiend build with this guy. It is kind of unfortunate that this guy will only work in Fiend decks, but let's continue. So cannot be special summoned by other ways. If your opponent normal summons a monster, special summon one Phantasm token for each monster summoned, but it cannot declare an attack. And it's 1,000, 1,000. But it cannot declare an attack. Once per turn, you contribute one monster. This card gains attack equal to the original attributed monster. Okay, so this card is straight awful. Even with our fixes that we've done to Fiends, and we've done a good amount of fixes to the Fiends, Fiends just don't have a way to spam out characters to bring out this guy in the first place. So this guy needs a full rework in order to make him relevant. I kind of like the idea of just having Fiends and just making this a Fiend-focused deck, sure. But having 3 Fiends on the field doesn't work. And if you look back at some of our videos about Fiends, then we did go over a few different ways of how we can build them in the sense of sacrificing their own your own life points for banishing effects, so that way they have the graveyard effect for when they're banished. So there is some work that we've done in the past that can affect this card, but this card is probably the least playable of the 3 cards. It is 100% the worst. Its effect is pretty awful just to summon. So tributing 3 Fiend monsters to drop a 4K body is pretty much impossible at this stage in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't know what they were thinking about this guy. Like, it's a cool concept, but if they're going to summon a monster, they're going to kill your 1K token anyways. And who does that help? Like, at that point. Oh, and then they're going to be able to just, normal summon and then target. This thing dies to everything. There's no built-in protection for him anyways. So that is another problem that we will have to fix. And finally, we got Yugioh, Lord of Searing Flames. Cannot be normal summon a sweat. Special summoned by sending 3 face-up trap cards you control to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card gains 1,000 attack for each continuous trap card on the field. Once per turn, you can target one set spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy that target. Neither player can activate spells and traps in response to this activations. I actually like this card. So it gains 1,000 for each continuous trap in your graveyard. So this thing can be get pretty big. So it gives you a way to build your deck around this guy. It's pretty easy to have 3 continuous trap cards on the field in early Yu-Gi-Oh! Fairy Box is a great one. There's just so many. Like Imperial Order was obviously huge. So like there are plenty of stally trap cards that you will probably want to play in order to get this guy out. And then when he comes out, he's at minimum a 3K beat stick. So this guy is pretty good. And I like the fact that he has the back row removal as well. I'm actually not going to touch this guy specifically. I think he's completely fine. So God cards themselves, or the Lord cards, whatever you want to call them. The main one that I really just don't like is Raviel. Hammond can get a slight pass. All we have to do is really just, while this card is face up defense position, just cut the defense position part. Monsters opponents control cannot target other monsters except this one. So this is a really easy fix. We don't really have to do much. It is just it's just a special summon 4K beat stick, which is terrifying. All for the cost of just stopping your continuous spell cards from being active, which isn't that big of a deal. I feel like there's plenty of ways to do this to bring it out. So we're going to mostly cut his effect down to just removing the defense position. So our fix is going to have to be on Raviel and the support to get it there. And let's start working on that. So first thing is this guy right here is kind of a way to bring out our annoying little Raviel card. And we are going to want to tweak this so that way this card alone is basically allowing us to special summon out Ravi. So this is Phantasmal Martyrs. I'll forgive you if you don't know what this card does. Activate only while you have 2 or more face-up cards, or sorry, 2 or more cards in your hand, and you control face-up Yugioh, Hammond, or Hammond. Wait. Hold up. You're telling me that this card doesn't, which summons out the Fiend tokens, you do not get to have the it doesn't have Raviel or whatever his name is in this card's effect at all? Like, this is, you have to control. First off, you have to control. Let me just read it out again. Sorry, I already got angry from it again. Activate only while you have 2 or more cards in your hand and control face up Yugioh or Hammond send your entire hand to the graveyard to special summon 3 Phantasmal Martyr tokens, Fiend type, Dark, blah, blah, blah. So you discard your entire hand to get these 3 tokens out on the field in the hopes you draw your Phantasmal Beast next turn? What the hell? This card is an ultimate rare, by the way, so if you pulled this card, how freaking pissed off would you have been to get this ultimate rare? This is probably one of the worst ultimate rares ever printed. Hit me at the comments. Which one is worse? What is the worst ultimate rare ever printed? Because I legitimately do not know. But this one has to be like at least top 5. So this card gets a full rework to make work for our Raviel. That is the goal of this card, is to be able to special summon out your big character, your big godlike characters. And there's a few ways we can kind of do this. So here's my fix. This is our new Phantasmal Martyrs card. This card cannot be destroyed by the card effects other than the effect of Uriel, Raviel, or Hammond. Obviously, you put their full names in there, but I'm not going to type it out. You may use this card as tribute for the special summon condition of those cards, meaning that you can use this as a continuous spell, continuous trap, or a fiend monster to special summon out those tokens. This card also has built-in protection. This is basically like you're starting that ritual to bring out those gods. So this card cannot be destroyed by card effects, but if there are ways to banish or bounce, like Giant Trunade or something like that, well, Giant Trunade would just put it back in the hand and you just plop it. Maybe we make this into a trap so that way it does slow it down a little bit. But I like the idea of just being able to play this, play this, play this. And I have 3, and these count as a tribute for any of those gods that I want to bring out. It kind of makes this card into a lot better of a staple that can be used in any of those 3 decks and not just something so specific that nobody will ever play. I think this card right away just makes it a lot more playable. It makes the gods significantly more playable, and I think there can be some really fun decks that can really utilize this in the future. I think making it a continuous spell that makes it not as searchable in the future as well. So there are just some really good things that this card does to bring out specific cards, and I like that the fact that these are kind of like your almost ritual summoning in a way. But I like how this card stands, and I think it just gives all 3 of them good support. And I think we can still do a few more things to help out those god cards. What kind of bugs me looking at this set is the fact that there are no real like fiend support here. We went insects, which I mean, don't get me wrong, insects definitely need some kind of support, but they didn't really give us a theme to really play with the insects a little bit more. They just gave us a bunch of generically admittedly standalone good insects, but they don't synergize well whatsoever. But we didn't get any real fiends to help get Mr. Raviel on this engine, and that's kind of like a big miss. Like we just don't have fiends in this set that we can really fix. So we have like Memory Crusher, which I like as a standalone effect. This guy says if this card is successfully attacked directly, inflict 100 for each opponent you're in their extra deck. That's a pretty cool effect, but again, it doesn't help us bring out Raviel. Oh wait, there was a Phantasmal was a rare. Okay, I didn't realize that. That's even worse now. Now that I think about it, none of these cards fit the theme. We have a lot of machines. Like we got Malice, who is a fiend right here, or no, he's a zombie. Like we have DD Guide, who's horrible as a fiend monster. No, he's a warrior again. Like again, none of these cards are fiends to help bring out Raviel, so I don't know what they're expecting us to play with. So at this point, I'm looking through and trying to figure out the cards that could possibly bring out Raviel at this point. Giant Germ is 100% the best option, as they do special summon themselves when they are destroyed by battle, so you can at least throw out 2 gems. So if you do play our spell that can count as a tribute, then you play that, you get special summoned out a Giant Germ, and you do have an easy 4K tribute that way, because then you can tribute off the 2 other germs, and then that continuous spell that we just made. So that is probably the best option in terms of what we created, but even if we don't, Giant Germ is significantly slower, too slow of a card at this stage in Yu-Gi-Oh! To be played, because only because it has that fiend tag to bring out Raviel. So if we changed nothing before this in current day meta, there was not an answer. We could look at Dark Worlds. They do special summon and spam out the field quite a bit. There would be some energy synergy with the existing. Actually, no, because the other Phantasmal thing card does not. While you control at least two other cards in your hand, you control. I'm sorry, this is chopping up a little bit. I just want to Google. Send your entire hand. It's just a send. It's not discard. So Dark Worlds don't quite have the experience with this either because it's all costs instead of sending. But you could possibly special summon out enough Dark World cards that you would draw Raviel and possibly tribute summon them. Anybody else's mic just randomly cut us off while you're talking? Anyway, sorry. But Dark Worlds, if you're special summoning out a bunch of Dark Worlds, chances are you don't want to just tribute them off for a giant 4K beat stick that loses to every trap. Our Archfiends, first off, Archfiends were horrible. Even with our fix, we made them fun and playable, but they don't special summon themselves out at all, even with our fixes. So, and then we talked about like possessed Dark Souls and before, where they had focused a little bit more on the graveyard effects. So, at the moment, there is nothing that we can do to special summon out Raviel consistently because of that. And so we can't quite fix him unless we just create brand new cards. And I don't like to do that completely. I like to retrain stuff that is already existing, but we just don't have it. Raviel at the moment, I'm kind of stumped on the fix unless we create brand new cards, and I I don't want to do that for this yet. The only fix I could suggest, which is probably too strong, is removing the Fiend clause altogether. And I'm not crazy about that. I just think that summoning out a 4K beat stick that can basically go into every deck, this card would probably hit the ban list sooner than we'd want it to. And it's I mean, if you really wanted to sell that set, then hey, sure, go for it. But I think that takes it just being able to spam out this guy. I think that would even being able to special summon out three monsters. I think this card would actually see play in today's meta. If you can just drop a 4K beat stick by special, it's so easy to special summon things out, right? And nowadays, right? We got our links, and it's insane. So I don't think that is the correct fix. I think it needs to have some kind of restriction to it. Maybe the only other thing I could suggest would be zombies, where you could probably do a zombie spam deck a little bit more, and instead of distributing three fiends, you bring out three zombies, and I think that could fit more in a theme with him. But he does look more fiend-like. It's a tough call. I'm gonna leave this one unfixed at the moment. I think that's the first time I've really taken a look at a card and said that, but I don't have the correct answer for this guy yet. I'm curious on what you would do. That is, unless we make one big change to all the gods, which I think will fit us in line with the anime a bit more and how the god cards, and we add the clause of this card's special summon cannot be responded to. It is making them a tier 0 speed or spell speed 0 at that point, which I don't think is good for early Yu-Gi-Oh! And so there is that as an option, but again, to me, I think that's too strong for early, and I don't want to implement that as much. So I think there's a lot of discussion that can happen with these guys of what little things we could have changed to make it work. But again, I'm going to leave it unfixed for now. I do want to go back and talk about Hammond, though, because I think this card's interesting, but it's not good, and I don't feel like it fits a good theme with it at all as well. I like by sending three continuous spells, we're going to keep that as a cost as well, and maybe if you wanted to make it so that way it's summon can't be responded to as well, but I think that we can just get rid of this. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 damage. We can basically cut that entire last line, and I would like to kind of show off my pitch for this one. All right, so here is my pitch personally for this guy. So keep the initial effect still of this card cannot be special or normal summon, must be special summoned by setting face up continuous spell cards to your side of the graveyard. What I think can really change is to give this guy some more recursion around continuous spells. So this guy will say, when this card is summoned, target one continuous spell in your graveyard that does not share a name with a continuous spell used for this card's summon, and add that card to your hand. So this does give us a lot of continuous spells that can be reused for this effect. I like that a lot. Now, and again, it can't share that same name. So if we played 3 copies of our Phantasmal Martyrs, then that doesn't count. We can't bring that back. But when we do, once per turn, you may banish a face-up continuous trap card. Oh, so continuous spell card. I'm sorry, I gotta fix that. Continuous spell card to inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent's life points. We got recursion. We have a theme. We have a scary boss monster that is pretty not easy to summon, but can just be dropped out. And on top of that, it will allow us to reuse a couple of our spells. I still think this is strong. I think that this can be used in more I don't want to say super modern day, like in 2024, you're probably not going to be playing it, but this is some way to get recursion out of continuous spell cards, and I like that a lot for this guy. It just makes him scary, it makes him a threat, and I think you can have some interesting deck choices to play this guy now. So I definitely consider this Hammond fixed because we hit all of our marks that we want. We just made it a playable boss monster that can be splashed in when you want to play a strict theme. And yeah, Hammond's fixed. Yuria, I don't feel like is the. I think he's the only one that doesn't quite need the fix. Continuous trap cards are often overpowered anyways. So I don't really want to give him a similar recursion theme of continuous traps, like being able to get back Call of the Haunteds and stuff like that would just be insane. And the fact that you want your traps in the graveyard, I think is good to keep this guy extra powerful, a power stat. I think that he is like now worse than Handman, but I think he is still strong and good, and I think there is ways to play this guy still. And so I'm going to give him a pass. I don't think he needs a fix. I think he is playable as he is. And he's only gotten better because we gave him some extra support. All right, so next on the list is Ruin Queen of Oblivion. She's not a bad card, but she definitely fails in comparison to Demise, who comes out in this set. Who Demise was pretty relevant, and not really so much as a meta, but he was definitely played, and is still a really strong card in a closed format. But Queen, she just doesn't have that if I don't know, like that if factor. When this card attacks, sorry, when this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate this deck and make a second attack in a row. It's okay. Some of the restrictions come down to its spell, where we're going to talk about End of the World. Just having to tribute monsters from your hand and field whose levels are exactly level 8. So she is a level 8 character. Can swing twice, only if she destroys something. So she's a weaker BLS with more cost, and you know how I feel about that. If you're going to come out with a new boss monster, don't make it significantly weaker and harder to summon than Blackluster Soldier. Like it's or if it's going to be weaker, then it needs to be easier to summon. And tributing off two 8 character cost sorry, 2 4 costs in your hand to bring this guy out with such a weak stat line, just doesn't fit that itch. And also, the attacking twice is kind of boring to me. Like, she's a Queen of Oblivion, so you want to give her something to be like, hey, I want to match up that power of like Demise level. And just so you can kind of see his reference, this guy just says that you can pay 2,000 life points to destroy all other cards in the field. And he's a 2,400 beat stick. That's pretty strong power. I like it. I mean, again, he's weaker than Chaos Emperor Dragon, but he's a ritual card. He can be summoned out pretty easily. He's 2,400 stats. He does blow up everything, but keeps cards in hand, which can be an advantage as well. So he's just overall a better ritual card to want to summon out than the Queen. And I think we can do a little bit more with this Queen card than just I can make 2 swings in a row. So here's our new one. This card can only be ritual summoned with the ritual spell card, End of the World. Now this guy says you can pay 2,000 life points to discard all cards in your opponent's hand. So we have the guy who destroys all cards on the field, and so now we have, wrong one. Have Queen who discards all cards in your hand. I like that. We're just gonna bump her back to 2,400. I'm not gonna go by. I do find it completely sexist that Oblivion, the king, is 24, and we're gonna make the queen slightly weaker at 23. That is not cool, guys. Like, no, it's gonna be 2,400. I also feel like 24 stat line is completely fine because then it can trade with monarchs, and monarchs can be traded with each other if it's just being smacking. So I kind of like that as a lot. So I'm gonna make her at 2,400 and can remove cards from your hand. Pay 2,000 life points. It's basically a like delinquent duo status like kind of effect, and which does get banned over time. But this is a lot harder to get out than just casting delinquent duo. So I think this card is definitely fixed. It fits the theme a little bit more with Demise. We got Demise who's dealing with cards in hand, and his Queen who is dealing with cards in there. I'm sorry, Demise on the field, Queen on the hand. It fits the theme a little bit more. It gives them some more balance between the two of them. And just swinging twice, I don't see this queen coming at me, swinging wildly and attacking me twice. Like I just feel like that banish, like getting rid of their hand, is a completely appropriate fix for her. I really want to talk about this card. One, because the artwork is terrifying, but two, it's let's look at some of the monsters before I get into these cards. So we got Princess Pikiru and Princess Kirin. They are just the retrains of some of our older ones. They were, but just significantly weaker, even though they have the higher stat line. And the reason they're weaker is they're 4-cost characters that have to be summoned by Trial of the Princess. So Trial of the Princess says equip only to a White Magician Pikiro or Iban Magician Kirin, and those are the cards from the early sets, like that had like 1200 stats. It gains 800 attack during your A turn that the equipped monster destroyed a level 5 or higher monster by battle. You contribute the equipped monster and this card to special summon from your hand or deck one Princess Piru if you tributed one White Princess. Like, okay, there's summon out the weak ones to make them more powerful. I get it, but no. It's not necessary to go through all of these steps to bring out a 2K beat stick or that can heal or a 2K beat stick that can burn. It's just not necessary. I would literally play Jirai Gummo before I would put all of these other cards into the game, like or into my deck. There is no possible way that any player ever looked at those cards and said, "Oh wow, I can make a Princess Pikiro deck and get out this massive 2K beat stick and be happy." No, dude, like there's a better way, and we're gonna make it work. So I remade this card a little bit, and it has the same effect in theory, but it does change some aspects to it, and this card is going to be kind of fun to play with in the future. And because I had already seen a couple different things, so I changed it from having to equip onto those specific Ebons and White Magicians that we had earlier, and now I just say while you control a face-up level 2 or lower monster with Magician in its name, you may tribute that card to special summon from your hand or deck for one card that has Princess in its name. Okay, there's a lot of like repercussions for this, but I kind of looked at some of the cards that this would affect in the future, and let's go over that together. All right, so these are all the cards that in relatively modern form, or not modern form, like within the near future. I'm not going all the way down to like pendulum summons and stuff, but these are all the cards that would kind of see some kind of impact on this card. And I'm curious and see how many broken ways this card could be used. Because really now, when we look at the card effect, it's just saying that, where'd it go? There we go. Trial of Princess. While you control a face-up level 2 or lower monster with Magician in its name, you contribute this off and special summon from your hand or deck a card that has Princess in its name. So we're trading a Magician for a Princess. So what that means is, like, let's say I have Magician of Faith, level 1 Magician card. I can tribute her off, and at this early point, the best thing I am actually tributing off and bringing into the game would really be like Insect Princess or the Princess Karens at this point. But even in the future, if I were to tribute off like something like Sylvan's Princess Sprout, that means I can bring out some of these other plants, which I like. Oh no, that's a princess. She's not a magician. So this weaker little girl here, it doesn't have anything. A beautiful princess probably can make a pretty interesting but busted combo. But there's nothing in here as a standalone that gets crazy better by just being able to tribute a magician to bring out a princess. But it gives us exactly what we wanted for Iban and White to bring out the Princess Pikiru. And it makes this card significantly more relevant because in the future, if I really wanted to play Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, I could splash in a princess into that deck and give us another spell, which is kind of interesting. I just think there's a lot more cool things that we can do by that change, and I'm not seeing anything too broken, at least in the near future, that is going to be directly impacted. So again, tribute a magician and summon a princess from your deck. Strong, possibly impactful, Not game breaking or meta defining by any means, I feel like, and I'm okay with it. It's still a 2 card combo that you have to have in order to special summon a specific princess, but none of these princesses are that amazing. I'm really thinking of possible combinations of Sylvans later on because there are some really strong plants that come out way down the bit, but I think that this right off the bat fixes our and being able to special summon from the deck like these other 2 princesses. I mean, they're completely fine at that point. There's still 2K beat sticks that can just be special summoned with a 2 card combo. If anything, they're still weak, but I think that now we're playing a lot more of a spellcaster focused deck that this just works, and we're now able to really bring out these other cards, and I'm happy with it. I think that this is a completely playable engine. It's again not meta defining, but it's only going to get better as time goes on, and I'm curious. I think it does spark some interesting deck building concepts that you can really get from this guy. Wrong one. Yeah, just because I'm interested in what I can do. There's a lot less restrictions to this, and being able to special summon a specific princess card in the future is from my deck. That could be crazy nasty. There's not that too many princesses though, and there's not as many good magicians that you'll want to play in the future to make it work. But if you do want to make it work, there's an option. And so I'm considering Trial of the Princesses fixed. So let's talk about some of these bad Cyberdragon cards. So first off, we did get a nice little bump to Cyberdragons thanks to our little proto Cyberdragon here. This card's name becomes Cyberdragon while it's on the field. So really nice concept to this. So it does give us a little bit more synergy along with them. However, Cyber Laser Dragon and Cyber Barrier Dragons, they need these very specific cards to go through. So let's look at Cyber Barrier first. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except with the attack reflector unit once per turn while this card is in the attack position. If your opponent's next attack is negated. Okay. So we are using this card right here. Tribute 1 Cyber Dragon, special summon 1 Cyber Barrier Dragon from your hand or deck, just to summon out somebody that negates the first attack. Okay, yeah, that's just straight bad, and this is not a. This doesn't need to be an existing card. It's pack filler, which it's pack filler at a high rarity, which is even more annoying. But when we look at Cyber Laser Dragon, this card cannot be special summoned except by Photon Generator Unit. Once per turn, you can destroy 1 attack and defense equal to or higher than the attack card. So it's kind of neat because it does pop out Monarchs. That's not as bad. But it does say tribute 2 Cyber Dragons, special summon 1 Cyber Laser Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So, like, you need to tribute 2 Cyber Dragons, which means you need 2 prototypes in order to bring out this Cyber Dragon, which admittedly is a decent effect, but tributing out, you're basically going 2 Cyber Dragons, that's 2 monsters, and a 3rd spell card. So you're going 3 cards to summon out 1 who can hopefully help you pop another. It's just not good. It is way too slow. We can kind of figure out something along the lines in that same theme, but I think that Cyber Laser Dragon and Cyber Barrier Dragon should just be fusion cards, and we can make them a fusion card, and more importantly, we can combine their 2 effects. So let's make this work. So I'm introducing Build Your Own Cyber Dragon. This card gains the effect of spells and traps cards used to special summon Build Your Own Cyber Dragons. So what does that mean? Well, we kind of nerfed the stat line a little bit from 24 to 21, but we're going to mean that this card can be what you want it to be. You are building your own Cyber Dragon with the effect of powerful spells and trap cards. So instead of us having to kind of like, I'm going to play this random effect Cyber Dragon that I need to play this random spell for and have a Cyber Dragon on the field, no, we just build our own when we want it, and this card sits in our fusion deck, so it's always available. And so let's look at some examples of a card that was normally horrible that now can make this a lot better. So we look back at Attack Reflector Unit and special summon 1 Cyber Dragon from your hand or deck. That brings out this guy who says once per turn, while this card is in attack position, your opponent's next attack is negated. That's boring and bad. Let's look at our new one. Now that's a card with some meat on its bones. Alright, so special summon build your own Cyber Dragon from your extra deck by tributing 1 face-up Cyber Dragon you control. Build Your Own Cyberdragon gains the following effect. Once per turn, negate an attack or effect that targets Build Your Own Cyberdragon. So now our Cyberdragons, 2100 Beatstick, who would normally just be a pretty good threat on its own at 2100, with that extra card combo, we gave it built-in protection. So now if they're going in and trying to attack our Cyberdragon, we pop this trap open. Hey, I can negate an attack for my Cyberdragon, and it's still at 2100 attack, so it's not that threatening, but it's still threatening now because I can negate an effect or an attack that would target my Cyberdragon. And it is specifically Cyberdragon. We're not looking at Cyber End Dragon or anything, because those cards don't share the Cyberdragon name necessarily. So I don't feel like this is going to be too powerful, but now it gives me more influence on how do I want to play with my Cyberdragons. And having this guy sitting in our extra deck is just, now I don't have to rely on having a dead card in my hand in my deck anymore, and it just makes them a lot more playable. We can do the same thing for the laser card. The laser usually says tribute 2 Cyberdragon, special summon 1 Cyber Laser Dragon from your hand or deck, and it brings out this guy, which once per turn you can destroy 1 monster with attack or defense equal to or higher than the attack of this card. So now if we just basically put that once per turn you can destroy 1 monster with attack into this card instead, to allow us to special summon out our new Build Your Own Cyberdragon with that effect. Maybe we say that equip that card to it so people know, hey, I special summoned it with that card. But I don't think that's too necessary. But I just because it's that effect has happened, it's in the graveyard, you can do whatever you want with it. So I like these fixes a lot. I think they're nice changes that can be done. We're just getting rid of 2 really bad cards, and this card could be almost meta defining in a way if you really wanted to play with a cyber machine kind of deck build. And honestly, with some of the changes that we've done with our lore cards and this guy, this set just became really desirable. And the princess stuff from like that nobody would ever touch in the future, that just builds so many possibilities for deck building that I just find exciting. So I am really curious on how this would really affect any of the Cyberdragons, the princesses, the lords. I think these are all really positive changes for this set, which is historically horrible. And now it gives a lot of new light to our deck building. The last card I really want to talk about is a card that I have a personal grudge against. So it's not fair for me to want to fix this guy because realistically, he's a perfectly fine and balanced card. I just really hate Monarchs, and this card plays Monarchs. Like the fact this guy gets to be brought back every single turn is ridiculously annoying, which means I'm constantly dealing with a 2400 beater that is going to get a special effect of some sort of removal every single time. I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. I just wanted it to be known. I'm not fixing this card. I'm not banning this card. I just purely hate this card, and I wanted you guys to know about it. So, Treeborn, you're fine. I just legitimately hate Monarchs, and yeah, you're going to escape my wrath today. So, guys, I think this is where we're going to wrap it up. And I'm really excited. I love this series. I do want to keep doing them. It's just, I'm probably not going to be putting them out every week like I have historically in the past. It got some growth, and I'm really, really thankful for everybody who commented and did everything for it. It's just, if I'm getting under 300 views on these videos, it's not as big enough of a reason for me to want to put them out every week. I was really excited when the first episode came out because I got like 600, which is insane for these videos. But they're pretty much consistently hanging around 2 to 300, and to me, I don't know if this is information or interesting enough or has a big enough base to really push an episode out every week like I really thought I could do. So with that, I'm probably only going to do like maybe once or twice a month. So I really, really appreciate all the feedback, all the support everybody's been giving. I definitely have some diehard fans, and thank you guys. It really means a lot that you are commenting and doing so much with this series. I'm glad that you look forward to it, and I'm glad you find this stuff interesting because I love talking about just game design aspects. So truly heartfelt thank you for everybody. Yeah. I'll continue to make these just a little bit more at a leisurely pace, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy them when they come out. So as always, guys, thank you all. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and I will catch you guys next time for the next episode.